What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we got a guest that many of you have been asking for such a long time, the one and only John Five. Thanks for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's so cool to have you here. Thank you for giving us some new music to wait out these rather dire times with. We have Sinner coming out very soon. One thing I'm curious about is, do you consider just like a direct continuation from what we heard on Invasion, or did the state of the world lately inspire you to take a bit of a new approach with this album?
I think with any band, it could be AC/DC or Rob Zombie or Metallica or anything like that. It's all like that thing. It's like what I do on my records is like it's what I do. I have this crazy style, and I play all these different styles of music, and I just try to have songs that are super interesting and hooky, and things that I love to play. And that's what Sinner is about. But what is different about Sinner is that with these trying times, like you were saying, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I just wanted to play everything in one continuous take from beginning to end. So I would start a song, and if I didn't mess up, that was the whole take. I didn't want to punch in and all that stuff. So if I messed up, which I did, I would start at the top again. I would go right from the beginning, and just to do it as a one continuous long performance. So it's kind of like a performance, that whole record, because I had so much time on my hands. So I took the song and I would practice, 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 practice. And then I would go into the studio and record that song, and then so on and so forth with all the songs.
That makes a lot of sense that you're telling me about that, because I feel like Sinner does exactly that. When I heard the first single, Que Pasa, it like captured a moment, if you will. Like there's times where people could tell, like, okay, they recorded this separately from this and then they bridge it all together here. But this sounds almost like a live album in a way. Like I consider Sinner to be a live album, more like Live Invasion or It's Alive, more so than like Invasion or The Art of Malice or something like that.
Yeah, it was all done. I just sat there and just played everything, even all that stuff. I had to make sure everything was right on time, and as perfect as we could get it. And because with editing, you can move something, but when it's a full performance, it's very hard to do that because everything gets moved. So like in a computer type of thing, kind of computer kind of way, if you move something a little bit back or a little bit forward, the whole song gets moved. So we didn't really want to do anything like that. We just kind of kept it as a live performance. If we weren't in a pandemic and I wasn't had like a zillion hours on my hand, would we have done it that way? Probably not, but I just thought, God, man, what am I going to do? You know, what am I going to do with myself? And that's what kind of helped me out mentally.
Do you like ever enter the songwriting process for any album or any project with like a preconceived idea, or is there like a lot of improv involved? Like have you ever come up with some riffs or solos like by accident or something like that?
No, and I'm always honest with the interviews and what I say. There's no improv on it. Every note was, placed and thought out, and especially with this record, everything was really, really kind of meticulously placed just because of the time. But there isn't any improv on it. I love to jam and just improv with friends and sound check and things like that. But yeah, on this record, there isn't really any of that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the honest answer,
I mean, in order to like get that creative inspiration, because there's some guitar players like who just sleep with their guitar, they never put it down, and then there's some guitar players, after they're done performing or recording, they just need to set it aside and not look at the damn thing for a while. But like, in order to get that inspiration, do ideas come out of nowhere, or do you have like a usual place that you go to, or a usual mode that you go into to let the creativity fluctuate?
You know, I wish I had some cool like answer to tell you, but I'm always looking for inspiration. And where I find an inspiration nowadays is YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and things like that. That's where I find a lot of inspiration. And I think it's wonderful
I think it's
because
wonderful too.
it's cool to find that stuff.
I mean,
It's right at your.
yeah, like think about how many great things have cultivated just from people inspiring on YouTube. There's so many great playthroughs. There's so much funny stuff to find. I think YouTube is a great source of inspiration. I like, obviously people want to talk about negative effects with it, but I think that's one of the greatest positive effects there are.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's not just music, it could be comedy, it could be acting, it could be art, it could be cars, it could be anything you can imagine. People are inspired by YouTube. And it's not like it's a TV where you got to watch. Remember when we would watch TV and we'd have to wait for it? We could just type in whatever we want. Hey, how do you put in how do you put this vacuum together? Let's see, let's figure it out, and then it's right there. It's such a wonderful tool, YouTube is, and I use it for inspiration of guitar playing. But I do play a lot. I'm obviously I have the guitar around me all the time. When I get off stage, sometimes I'll make phone calls, and I'll be like this, and they'll be like, "Wait, did you just get off stage? Are you playing guitar? You just got off stage?" And it's funny because yeah, I'm always doing that kind of thing.
So for aspiring guitar players out there, there's a chance that John Five could have been checking out your YouTube video and took inspiration for the album. You never know.
100%. And you know what? I'm the kind of person that gives credit where credit is due. I'll follow that person and I'll comment or I'll press like because I like it. Why not? Why not make that person happy? Like, oh, cool, he checked out my thing and he liked it. Why not? It's like it takes 1 second. There's It's easy to do and I really like it. So if I really like something, I'll let the person know.
So has surfing through YouTube, because you've been doing this a long time, we didn't have YouTube forever, has surfing through YouTube and just kind of like getting lost in that wormhole been just as much as part of the creative process as, tracking the songs?
Oh, absolutely. I think I'll look for new things to do and new styles to play because there's all sorts of new styles going on because we have the world at our fingertips, and I'll look for how people are playing in across the world and see what kind of techniques they're doing and try to work it in my music as well. And it's not that I'm saying, oh, I came up with this. I always give credit. I'm like, oh yeah, I picked this up from this guy or that guy, and I think it's important to have. It's one of the most important things to do is have inspiration because it could change your life. Like when I saw, people playing guitar on TV, and it just stuck in my brain, and it just made my whole life go in a certain direction. And it's been wonderful.
Do you have a theoretical background that you apply to your guitar playing too? Like, are you thinking about scale or form or patterns or anything like that? Or are you completely self-taught and you kind of like to break the rule book a little bit more in your guitar style?
No, I think about scale. I think about patterns and modes and things like that because I want it to sound good. And I like even like how high the moon or something. those are all different chords and things like that. So there's a lot of theory in that. Hold on, let me change something here. Let's see. La, 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 there's a lot of different chords and all that stuff. It's learning all those chords and learning all those modes and seeing what fits and what doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And I love to learn. It's like one of my favorite things.
Here's a little tip my former guitar teacher taught me to remember those scale modes like Mixolydian, Phrygian, Ionian. He taught me a little code. It's I don't particularly like midgets attacking ladies. That's how you remember every scale mode that's there.
Interesting. I will keep that in mind. Yeah, there's always little tricks of remembering things. And what I try to do is if I learn like a really cool lick that like I like I'll put that in a song. And I'll go, okay, cool, like, and then I'll try to put that in a song so I never forget it. And that's because there's so many licks and there's so many things going on in your head, you're going to forget things. And how I try to not forget things is to put them in a song. So I'll never forget them because they'll always be reminded, oh, let's do this song. Oh, it has this really cool thing in it. And that's how I always remember bits and pieces.
When laying down solos, is it maybe easier? Because I know that a lot of singers, like, they love to have the music there so they know what key to sing in and what melodies to hit. Is it maybe easier to cultivate guitar solos when you have, like, background music and kind of like a sort of key to work off of, or do you sometimes have a whole solo written and maybe the rest of the song would be revolved around that?
So what I'll do is it's very, very primitive. I'll put up a drum beat I'll go onto Google and I'll put in like 150 beats per minute. And then I'll have that going, that metronome. Or I can go into YouTube and put a drum beat of 150. I usually don't do that because the drum beats might not be the drum beat I want, but I'll usually put a metronome. Then I'll take the iPhone, just with my voice memos, record a rhythm with the tempo going, and then I'll have that going and I'll just create a cool solo over that. So I do everything from home. I have no home studio. I have a amp and a cord, but no home studio. So I'll work on everything here. And then I'll go to my producer's house, Barry Pointer, and just record everything. It's so primitive how I do it. It's really elementary. It's pretty ridiculous because it's just I don't even use my computer, because I just spend all the time playing guitar. I don't have any knowledge of like GarageBand or anything like that. I pretty much just record it on my phone.
Whatever you're doing, it's working. So primitive or not, I would say keep at it.
Thank you.
One thing I always wanted to ask you is it's not just your guitar playing, but as somebody who's seen you live, both solo and playing with Rob Zombie, like there's also an identity. Every guitar player has their own identity, but I feel like it's when I hear John 5, I just don't think of a guitar tone or a guitar solo, but I do have an image because of who you portray on stage. Has the identity of John 5 it kind of been an extension of who you personally are, or when you're playing live or even recording that you almost feel like John 5 is almost like an alter ego or a character, if you will?
I always try to keep things as honest as possible, and I think that is very important. I sit around in pajamas all day or onesies or anything like that, and I play guitar and I play all these different styles, and I have like these. The reason I have like on my Instagram, you'll see me with like funny pajamas. Ever since I was really, really young and into my adult years, my mother has always bought crazy pajamas for me. I don't know. And I never understood why, but like the craziest pajamas she could find, and she would send them to me. And that's why I wear them. And she's not with us anymore, but I'll wear those. And it's kind of like, oh, it makes me feel good and things like that. But that's why I wear those crazy pajamas. I'm not trying to do anything where I'm like trying to be weird. It's just a kind of a comfort thing, what I do. And I've always had the makeup on, even when I was so little, you know, playing shows. Like in sixth, seventh grade, I would wear crazy makeup and stuff like that. Of course, you know, I love Kiss and all that stuff, but I always thought, why not have a show to go with what you're doing? And some people don't like it, but it's just honest. I'm just being honest with myself and the crowd. It's just, you know, something I like to do. And why not? It's entertainment, you know, and it's really who I am.
And playing with different artists as well, and this is, we're kind of going back to like a little bit of the technical talk, but like, because some guitar players, they have their guitar tuned or you know, have certain effects on depending on the singer that they're performing with too. Like, and you've played with a lot of great vocalists and played with a lot of different vocalists as well, like, you know, playing with David Lee Roth versus Rob Zombie, two completely separate tone voices. Like, do you almost feel like you have to adjust the tuning or your technique at all depending on who you're playing with?
Of course, you know, and everybody I've played with, I've been huge fans of. So if I'm with, you know, David Lee Roth, and he'll say, oh, you know, take your whiskey home, and I'm like, oh. You know, he'll say, you know, give me something like that, or give me something like Hang 'em High. You know, I'll know exactly what he's talking about, and I'll know the mode, or I'll know the exactly what he's talking about, you know. But if you go into a situation where, and the same thing with Skynyrd or the Scorpions or Meatloaf or anything, I know all these songs. Rob Zombie, I know every song, every song. So if they refer to something, they'll say, you know that song, I'm kind of looking for something like that. I hear it in my head, and it helps a lot, you know. And then you find out what tunings they like to write in and what keys they like to write in, and it really helps a lot, knowing the person's whole life catalog, if you will.
But does, and I'd imagine too, because not only is the work technically impressive, but I also feel an emotion behind it. I feel an energy that you channel into it. So when you're writing those solos, is it almost like a reflection of that, of how you were feeling at that particular moment?
Absolutely. It really is. It really is. And, you know, sometimes it's right off the top of my head, and sometimes it's all planned out. And some, listen, I'll get very emotional on stage sometimes. It's crazy. And that's what's so magical about music, is that it gives you that sense of emotion. You know, it gets people through the hardest times of their life or the happiest times of their life, you know, and you have a memory of these songs. Like, I remember like going to school every day. I would get a ride to school every day, and for some reason, I don't know if the radio station did this, but every time I got in the car, I heard that Steely Dan song, Josie. And every day I would hear that song. And now when I hear that song, I can picture myself going to school, you know, and that's the magic of music. It's just such a wonderful thing. It could make you so happy, and get you through tough times or happy times or anything like that. So yeah, there's a lot of emotion behind it.
Definitely, and I could definitely tell. I have two more questions for you, but kind of going back to what you said about playing live and how you get emotional, is there maybe a similar energy that you put into your live presence as you do when you maybe are in the studio or songwriting? Or is playing live and songwriting two completely separate art forms, energies, like nothing compares to the two?
Yeah, it's completely separate. I play a game with myself, like if it's the creatures or if it's zombie or anything, and I've always done this. Manson, anything like this, Katie Lang, anything. Because you play all these shows in a row, right? You play all these shows in a row, all these shows in a row. And what I try to do is I try to, and this is the game I play with myself, I see how perfect I can play, like I'm in the studio. And it's just something fun to see, like, okay, I want to play exactly on beat and I want to play exactly in tune and I don't want to mess up. And it's a fun game to play and you really concentrate and because I'm such a weird perfectionist. And it's wonderful because now everybody's got their phones when they're playing, we're playing live and they're recording everything. And I promote that. I'm like, hey, listen, if you guys want to get your phones out, get your phones out. I promote it. It's your phone. You can record as much as you want because inside my head, I'm really trying to play as perfect as possible. So it's a lot of fun.
You can't get away with fucking up that much anymore. Everybody's gonna hear it.
Can't at all.
Yep. And concerts have been having that for as long as I've been going to concerts now too. So I'm glad I'm kind of in the era I'm now. Everybody is incredibly focused. Not too much drunkenness on stage.
Right.
And this led me perfectly into my final question in your songwriting process. But how do you know when a song is done?
Um, when there's nothing, when your ideas are just nothing can beat what is on tape. Nothing can beat it. Like, well, the song's so good. What if we add a little something here? But nothing can beat it. You could ruin the song, because you're like thinking, oh, well, I want this. No, you'll know. It's just like, in my eyes or my ears, I'll just know, okay, there's nothing else we can do to this because whenever we try to put something else in it, it just gets messed up. So that's when I know the song is finished.
Fair enough. That was a great technical answer. Thanks for not giving me the cliche, oh, you only abandon the song. I've gotten that too many times. This was a very, very articulate one.
Yes, thank you.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with the release of Sinner coming out? Could we be seeing you on the road a lot? We also got a new Rob Zombie album last year, so I know that there's a lot of touring that has to be made up at these times, right?
Right, yeah. I did a tour with the Creatures, and we've been doing shows with Zombie. We have another show coming up in Daytona Beach. We're playing with Metallica, and that's November. And then we just keep picking and we keep playing. But I wanted to say, this was a great interview and great questions.
Oh, thank you.
It really was. It really was. It was a nice breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Much, everybody. We are here with John 5. Be sure to check out Sinner. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.